Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are getting wild. We're going to win a popularity contest on this show this afternoon or evening, depending on when you're listening to it. We're talking about The Old Man and the Key. And, of course, joining me, as always, the Zelda to my Abe, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, you old hussy?
I don't appreciate that slight. It's a bad joke if you have to explain it, Miles. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that
Hoochie.
If you have to call me that out loud after calling me Zelda, it's a bad joke. Unless you call me Princess Zelda, but she might be a hoochie too. Who knows? Yeah, I'm okay. Are
you sure?
Honestly, yeah, I wasn't looking forward to watching this one in particular. I didn't have any super bad thoughts about it. I just thought it was going to be kind of boring. And honestly, I thought it was kind of fun. It had more enjoyment to it than I thought it would. But we've been on this track lately on the show where I feel like I've been revealing that at the beginning of the episodes, when back in the day we used to do it at the end. Times are changing, so that's why I'm doing it. So I guess I should just shut the hell up and throw it back to you so we can start talking about why these things made me feel the way that they did. So let me throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the what's the scoop milkshake. It is Miles.
Times are a-changing, Rich. You nailed that one on the head. We are obviously going through all sorts of growing pains right now as we're trying to figure out what to do as Get Vocal shuts down. We maybe emptively, we may have gone a little too eager with our announcement that we're moving to Vocal, because it turns out that might not be the case. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're not going to do that. Right now, it's looking like things are moving to Twitch. Which I'm actually excited about. It's there's a lot of pain in the ass that's happening to make that happen, but I think that when it does happen, there's going to be a lot of benefits, and that could be a really positive thing. What are your thoughts on that?
To be fair, he could take the pain anywhere he wants to. He's choosing to take the pain in the ass part of it. So I think
it's the meatiest part of my body. Where else am I supposed to take it?
I think that means that there's a little bit of enjoyment there for Miles. I'm excited about Twitch. It's Get Vocal has been great for the purpose of what we needed it to do. But I think, especially in this day and age, Twitch is a much more recognizable platform. So hopefully that's good for the show. So, thank you for everything, Get Vocal. This is our last recording with you. It's sad, but, hopefully we're all on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, man. Hopefully vocal.com is a success on their end, and hopefully Twitch is something that is not so looked what do I want to say? Every time I tell somebody we're recording on Get Vocal, they're just like, huh? So that's going to be a nice change, because most people have heard of Twitch, which is of course going to be a little bit different situation. It'll still be available on all of the places you listen to it. So if you listen on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or I don't know where else, Podbean, Stitcher, any of the other places that people listen to podcasts, that'll still be available there. But we're actually going to be on camera live show on Twitch whenever we can record, and we'll probably get a somewhat more consistent schedule going so that we can post that and actually hopefully have people join us live on the conversation and whatnot. But it should be a fun time. I'm pretty excited about it. There's a lot of benefits that come with it, despite all of the pain in the ass. And we're not so old that we're set in our ways in some retirement home like Grandpa that we can't adapt and change with the times, right?
Yeah, right? I can lean in here and start licking the microphone, have it shaped like an ear if we need to, I guess.
Yikes. Yeah, that was uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable to watch and listen to, if I'm being honest.
That's what happens when you get on Twitch, right?
Is that okay? Never mind. Change your plan again, folks. Man, yeah, there's a lot going on with that. What else? There's something else I was going to talk about, show related today. Now I'm completely blanking on what it is. I mean, other than The Simpsons, that's what we always.
Oh, so we are getting old.
Yeah, that's sadly true. Unfortunately,
it happens to everybody, man.
It does.
To you.
Yeah. Just keep an onion on your belt and you'll get through it too. It's true.
You'll remember the good old days.
Well, this is our last time recording on Get Vocal, so I guess let's make the best of it. We are discussing The Old Man and the Key today. The Old Man and the Key originally aired on March 10th in the year 2002. There's so much to this episode that they didn't have time for Bart to be snarky on the chalkboard, so we cut straight to the couch gag, which featured the Blue Man Group, which around this time, this is close to the time, maybe a little bit after actually, or possibly even before. I'm not quite certain what date it happened exactly. But the Blue Man Group is what ended up taking over Nickelodeon Studios at Universal Studios Florida. And that was always I was always a little bit sad about that, if I'm being completely honest. I have nothing against the Blue Man Group, but they killed a staple of our childhood, Rich. They just destroyed it and left it to rot.
Were the Blue Man Group a part of our childhood, or?
I was talking about Nickelodeon Studios as part of our childhood. Every show that anybody our age ever watched on Nickelodeon was always had the thing at the end where it would show the slime geyser, and it'd be like, Legends of the Hidden Temple is taped in front of a live studio audience at Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida.
Maybe the Blue Man Group members were nostalgic for Nickelodeon, so they decided to take that place in honor of them.
They were actually created from just the remnants of like slime, gack, and like whipped cream left over by Double Dare, and like the Blue Man Group grew out of like a bacteria that was like left from not cleaning the place properly. And since they were already in the building,
that's why they're too afraid to take showers.
Yeah, and that's why they're like always just like experimenting with stuff. They're just trying to figure out. They're trying to find the compound to get back to their original slime form.
There you go. It was easier life back then.
Exactly. So this episode does have a commentary track that was pretty both entertaining and informative. It featured Al Jean, Carolyn Omine, Matt Selman, Matt Warburton, Max Pross, Tom Grammel. Sorry, I gotta say Grammel. I meant to say Tom Gamble. And this episode itself was actually pitched by John Vitti, who is the second most prolific Simpsons writer after John Swartzwelder. And this actually has a pretty interesting origin story. I love it whenever the writers remember where the ideas came from. And even though John Vitti wasn't on this commentary, Al Jean was familiar enough with the story to share it with pretty good detail. Basically, Vitti had read an article about senior homes that more or less described them as being a lot like high schools, like basically senior citizen retirement centers, whatever you want to call them. They have a social structure and hierarchy that is very, very similar to high school. There's popular kids, there's the popular table, and if you have a car, you are instantly relegated to like king status. Like you are definitely going to smash some old ladies if you've got a car. That's just, and are able to drive it legally or whatever. Or probably.
I was gonna say you might smash some young people too, just from your driving capabilities.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're smashing everything, dude. But also, this is a separate. This is not from the commentary. This is my own personal knowledge that I'm about to drop with you.
Your old folk knowledge.
My old folk knowledge, dude. STDs are wildly rampant in retirement centers. Like old people be fucking and they not using condoms because, I mean, like for one, you're not going to get pregnant, right? Like that's not a concern anymore. And for two, you're probably going to die soon. So who cares if your like dick itches a little bit?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If they're having fun. Hey, I mean, and probably with the condom on, they can't feel it.
Probably so. But honestly, after learning all of this, it kind of makes me want to retire, you know?
The last part.
Sorry, Twitch. We're just going to go straight to the old person home.
He's going to have a Twitch in a different spot here pretty soon.
Exactly. I guess we should kick off this episode from the very beginning where we see Homer. Homer's very similar to a lot of my friends right now, only with instead of the NFL, which is everybody's getting excited about, Homer's excited about the new XFL season. Specifically, who will win this year's $1 million game? Who, honey?
The X is for extreme.
Oh, I think that was my line too, but there is no XFL this year. The league folded.
Who told you? Last year's MVP?
No, Homer is like, who told you? And Marge is like, last year's MVP. He sweeps up toenails at the beauty parlor. And just
Ring,
then
ring,
the phone
ring.
rings. Hello?
Hello? Hello, this is Springfield Retirement Castle. Your parent, Abraham Simpson, is dead. Oh
Marge,
my God.
They start to freak out a little bit, and we get a pre-recorded voice from the Thing who said, like, he died from complications of a medical nature that the nursing home was not responsible for.
Well, his voice changes on the nursing home. It almost sounded like they had like a gun to him saying, make sure you say the nursing home was not responsible.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where they're covering their asses for sure. But the news is given that Homer's father is dead, and obviously Homer's upset by this.
And he never even lived to be a vegetable. I'm really gonna miss him.
He sniffs something here, and then he's like, it smells like Grandpa.
I think that was Bart or Lisa that does that. And then Bart's reading, oh, my dad never even knew. Well, it goes back to Homer. Oh, my dad never even knew how I felt about him. And then
but you were very open with your feelings.
Sure, I said I loved him, but never that I was in love with him. There's been like one weird line each of the past few weeks where it's like randomly sexual within the family, and it's like with Homer giving Bart the picture of himself as a pinup girl, and then I forgot what happened last week. It was something along those lines too.
Yeah, a lot of male incestual suggestions or innuendos or whatever. But they're actually at the Springfield Retirement Castle at this point, and they're mourning Grandpa until Grandpa actually comes in and is like, "What are you crying about? You don't have to live here."
Dad, Grandpa, and they're all hugging him.
The kids are all hugging on Grandpa, but he gets upset because he's like, "You're stretching out my skin," and it turns out that they like legitimately are. They like flatten this guy, like pull his skin out like it's all elastic.
And he's like, "What's got into you, punks?"
Turns out it wasn't Simpson that died; it was Samson down the hall. And Abe is kind of gloating a little bit. He's like, "So much for Mister I can button my own shirt."
Oh, Dad, we've got what people never get, a second chance.
And just as they start to think about all the things that they could, reconnect for and take advantage of their second chance, Homer is like, yeah. Well, we'll call or send some fruit or something. But just
Grandpa, you're getting a new neighbor already.
And just then we see our first appearance of Zelda, or at least our first appearance in this episode, because Zelda was actually on the previous episode, Burns Baby Burns, as the movie star in the film Too Many Grandmas. But here, apparently, she's settling down for a simpler life at the Springfield Retirement Castle. And she immediately knows she's like strutting her stuff because she introduces herself. "Hi, I'm Zelda. I put the ass in assisted living.
Holy Mecca! Abe Simpson's the name. And now that you're here, I'm changing my instructions to do resuscitate. Now let me show you around."
And Abe starts to give Zelda the tour all around the retirement castle. He's showing her things like the comatose and the cool comatose.
Which looks like a bunch of Weekend at Bernie people.
Yeah. But she immediately takes notice to a man who she refers to as that tall drink of Maylocks. And we see a suave older gentleman speaking to a group of women. "Are you ladies here to visit your mothers?" Abe explains that that's Zach. He's as smooth as a 50-year-old behind. And we see that he's actually getting women to join him in his for some sweet corn in his minivan, which has a wheelchair lift. And this is where we learn that if you can drive, they're all over you. And Abe used to drive, but they pulled his license. We cut to a flash where I think this is where Abe like drives through an aquarium and is like, "Is this a Dairy Queen?"
Oh, but Zelda, if you're looking for something with a big back seat and a lot of gas. I'm your man.
Just then, we get the smoother older guy whose name is the tall drink of Malox walks by, and he's again got multiple old women on his arms, and he's like, "You've never heard Garrison Keillor till you've heard him through 5 speakers." Which I just learned that Garrison Keillor is like a talk radio host, essentially, an older gentleman, of course, at this point. But the idea that, like, you know, if doing the whole mapping this to high school, if you're a high school student, you might have an impressive sound system where you're like bumping the new, I don't know who's popular, let's say Drake song. And then this would be, you know, the old person equivalent of that, of course.
Well, I just like that he starts doing that, and then Zelda like smiles and gets up from the table. She's just gone from Abe's table,
and he immediately is like, "Tramp."
It's Jasper. Jasper actually.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Tramp.
Yeah, he was just hoping to give her a paddling.
Yep.
We cut back to the Simpsons home where Bart and Homer are playing a very interesting made-up game called Scrabble Ship, which is, of course, a combination of Scrabble and Battleship. This, according to both IMDb and the commentary, of course, absolutely makes 0 sense whatsoever, and they don't have any idea of how this would actually work. It's a completely illogical combination of games, but it's a fun idea to think about for sure.
Well, it's because when you're building the words on the board, it basically tells you where the battleships are at, so there's not a lot of guesswork needed to sink the Scrabble ships.
Right.
Which Bart most certainly does.
We pretty much cut right into Bart sinking Homer's Scrabble ship, and I think it's Lisa Marge complains that it makes no sense, and Homer's like, "Well, you tell that to the good men who just lost their lives. Semper Fi," and he salutes, or Semper Fi, he salutes the battleship on its way down.
Semper Fudge.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
And then Abe comes in. I want to drive again.
No way, it's too dangerous.
Well, you're no angel behind the wheel. What about your DUI?
That was a DWI. Way different. But Lisa, I think, is the one who stands up and says, "Give Grandpa a chance. Statistics show that people drive at least as well as sleep-deprived apes. That old people drive at least as well as sleep-deprived apes.
Driving is my last chance to feel alive.
Well, you did bring me into this world. So no.
Fine, I'm dead." And he falls on the floor. Oh.
He goes from being like mapped to a high school student to be mapped to a toddler who just didn't get their way, and he's like literally laying flat, not refusing to move, only responding with "No, I'm dead" when prodded to do anything.
Dead.
But finally, it works, and they agree to help get his license back. So he then goes, "Woohoo! And I want driving gloves."
No way.
Dead.
And then they cut to the DMV area, the community center, where they actually have Wiggum instructing a whole class of old people about driving, essentially.
Which, interesting enough, there is a note on the commentary that David Merkin was so annoyed that they had the chief of police teaching drivers that. He just thought that was the stupidest thing and was frustrated that they wouldn't change it.
I'm glad somebody stands by their guns.
Yeah, honestly, he's not wrong. It makes 0 sense that the chief of police would be teaching a driver's safety course. Like, that's not a thing.
So who would be doing it?
Probably a stand-up comedian, honestly. That's who teaches most of them. I'm not kidding. Like, that's a real thing.
Huh.
But even if say you did need to like hire somebody from the police force, it would probably be like the Rookie or some deputy.
I don't know if you have to. I think a good choice here would be Ned, because he'd be showing them how to do it like all calmly and everything. But then like all of the students would be doing it like they're maniacs, basically. Like, I think that would be a funny dynamic.
I think it'd be funny too that like Ned just assumes that like sometimes I've noticed people wave with their middle finger, but I prefer an old 5-finger diddly hello. Personally, neighbor, you know?
Diddly hello. Yeah, see, there's stuff right there, but it's all right. We're not Simpsons writers. We can't make those calls.
Well, and honestly, it's for such like a brief moment. It doesn't really matter, but I do think it's funny just in general that David Merkin was just like, "That's stupid. Why would we do it this way?"
It's a small town.
For sure. Let's see.
Starting class off here.
There's a really fun line that I like where I think it's Lisa. It's like, these old people are being kept alive by the organs of the young people they run over. This is during the driving class. This is one of the cops. It's like, makes you think, huh, Chief?
Yeah.
Not really. But apparently, Grandpa Simpson did well enough in class that he's on his way to the DMV, where he encounters Patty, who asks him to look at the eye chart and cover his left eye.
That's my seeing eye. The right one's my winking eye. Wink, wink.
And Patty's just like, I'll give you your license if you never do that again.
Oh, everything's the last time I do everything.
And this is where he asks if they could just use a recent photo. And he pulls out a newspaper article that is very, very prolific in The Simpsons. In fact, arguably, I think more people probably know of The Simpsons from this one picture than have actually seen The Simpsons at this point. It is the old man yells at clouds meme. And Al Jean himself even said that this is probably the clip used from The Simpsons more often than any other clip ever in the show. He says he's not certain, but he said he's not certain about that, but there's a very good chance this is the most commonly used and commonly seen clip. And it's mostly because things like The Daily Show and other comedy shows, political satire shows, things of that nature have used it a bunch. He specifically, The Daily Show had this whole series where they were making fun of John McClane back in like the 2000 election and stuff like that, where they just used it all the time. So, I'm sorry, that would have been the 2008 election for what it's worth. But
the 2008 collection.
Yeah, the collection of elections. But yeah, it is interesting to think about because the old man yells at cloud picture pops up all the time. It's a common response for people if they're like complaining about something. You see it all the time on the internet, even more than Homer disappearing into the bushes. So interesting to think about it.
I mean, back in the time of this recording for the commentary, yeah, I can see that. I don't know if that would still hold true today.
That's fair. I see this a lot, dude. I mean, I see a lot of Simpsons stuff a lot, but I see this particular image a lot.
Well, so will everybody else because that is now Abe's picture on his driver's license.
Yeah, and I do like that Patty just literally like cuts it out of the newspaper and like tapes it to a driver's license for his worth.
All right, here you go.
So Abe's got his license and he is off. What's the scoop, milkshake? Because I've got a date with Zelda, so I need the car. And he's wearing like he's like scatting that, and he's wearing a zoot suit. Yeah, he looks like he's auditioning for the Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
And when he says he needs the car, he's like, "Oh, no,
I'm not giving you my car. You'd probably drive it."
You don't trust your old man, you ungrateful milkshake. I love the instant callback.
Marge has a great idea, a solution that helps everyone, mostly herself, because she wants to do a double date. That way the restaurant will have to give them that booth.
Oh, that's some good living right there, Marge.
I love Homer's response here, though.
Wow, a booth. If I'm tired, I can just lie down.
It's a perfect solution. He's not wrong. We cut to the four of them, both Simpsons men, Marge and Zelda, driving to the drive-in movies where we keep hearing brake screeching and Abe complains, "Cut it out. I can work the brake myself."
No, you can't.
And we see Homer has a stick with a shoe attached to it, and he keeps slamming the brake down. And this is where we get one of my favorite jokes, because after the brake screech, Homer's like, "You're slow to react, Dad."
Baloney.
We see a really bad movie on the big screen. It's a college party movie where one of the dude bras accidentally tapped the septic tank instead of the beer tap. And everybody's laughing, but I think in Homer's like, in real life, he would die.
I like before that, Marge goes, "Dude sure got his comeuppance."
It's interesting, though, because it seems that the older Simpson couple here, Abe Simpson and Zelda, are hot and heavy. They are making out in the front seat. And Homer is like, hey, watch the movie.
Movies were better in our day. For a nickel, you got 2 movies, a cartoon, a bag of popcorn, and a whipping.
Kept your mind on your own business.
Yeah.
We get a fun little visual audio cued gag here. Excuse me. Because when Abe picks up Zelda from the nursing home, we get the musical cue from Sharp Dressed Man on, and then there's 3 of the gentlemen at the retirement castle that all do a little nod to ZZ Top.
Because every girl's crazy about a sharp-dressed man.
Down. Their date is going to like the makeout point, essentially. They're driving up to the cliffside, and Abe's like, now there's a few things I want to say to you, Zelda.
Save your breath.
And Abe's like, but I got to do something before the Viagra kicks in. I know, I'll suck my teeth.
And then you get this visual gag where his hair was slicked back at the top, and then one little spot.
He got an alfalfa boner.
Yeah. Here we go.
But when he gets home later that evening, I think it's Homer meets him at the door and is immediately like, give me those keys. Do you have any idea what you put us through? I called the police, the hospital, my bookie, the kennel. Okay, this isn't about who I called.
See you later.
Lisa is going to the library and she just grabs the keys and Abe's upset. Lisa gets to do what she wants and you don't yell at her.
Hey, I've earned their trust.
Oh, everybody loves Lisa. Precious little Lisa. Apple of her daddy's eye, Lisa.
Lisa doesn't borrow my car and stay out all night with some hoochie.
She's no hoochie. Her name is Zelda, and she understands me.
Grandpa, I gotta tell you, she's a stone cold hoochie.
That is cold coming from Marge. Like, when Marge says that line, you were just like, damn, Zelda is a hoochie, dude.
Like, it's got to be true if Marge says it like that.
I mean, Marge isn't, like, one to go around just throwing the H word around, you know?
Mm-hmm. Straight up, Marge.
She probably talked about it with Flanders, and he agreed. But Marge explains that Hoochie only likes you because you can drive.
Shut up! You don't know her. Zelda loves me. I hate this house.
We get like a big band sound and it screams, turn that down! You call that music?
Music stops. Homer, he runs into his room like a child, and Homer and Marge go up there and they're like banging on the outside of the door.
Yeah, it's very much like the whole thing is Grandpa is constantly acting somewhere between a toddler and a teenager, which are not that far off of behaviors.
He used to be such an angel.
They try to, he encourages him to give him another chance, but Homer refuses and says that he's got to learn, Marge, the way my dad made me learn.
He is your dad.
Cosmic.
I love the way he just literally goes, cosmic. Like, it's a good delivery by Dan for a one-word line.
Yeah, it really is. At the Quickie Mart, we see Abe confronted by Apu, who's
Jasper.
Like, we heard you just lost your what are you doing here? I heard you lost your driving privileges.
Well, for your information, I can still drive to the store, but I have to be back in 5 minutes with these things for the baby. And
that's when I think it's Homer comes in and he's like, oh, or no, I'm sorry. Apu brings out. He's like, the new scratch and win tickets are out today.
I'll take one at you.
No, not Chew, Pooh.
I got troubles with both.
But this is where they run into another group of gentlemen. The souvenir jacket crew, essentially. It's a group of 4 older men. One of them's wearing like a jacket from Planet Hollywood, Orlando. They're all wearing like Hard Rock Cafe, stuff like that.
One of the Tasmanian Devil jacket. Yeah,
souvenir jackets that tell you where they're from, like traveling wise.
And Abe is scratching his ticket, but like Abe's got the shakes like some old people do, and that's how his ticket's being scratched, and all his little scratchings are flailing all over the place.
What is that stuff? Because it's like the stuff that flakes off of a scratch off ticket. Like, what is that actually made of? Anybody know? Do you know?
No, it doesn't matter because this is a big misjustice. It's injustice. I made up a word. Big injustice in the old people community when you get your scrapings on somebody.
Well, and especially on a souvenir jacket like his.
Mm-hmm. Pardon me, sir. Go ahead, Miles.
I was just gonna say I should cut you like I cut sodium out of my diet.
You don't scare me with your dignity and your subtle cologne.
And this is where we see the rest of the crew. Then perhaps you should be taught a lesson by us, Los Souvenir Jaquitos. Bring it on.
Please, gentlemen, violence is not the answer.
Then what is? Some sort of death race? That's what I would do.
Well, it's a poo that actually brings up the death race idea, and then they go, very well, viejo.
You shall have your death race.
Death race?
and another thing.
Oh, this is a speech bubble in Abe's head. So Abe's thinking, like, what is he not supposed to do? Because he's only supposed to be driving to the store. And literally, it's a picture of Homer going, no death races.
Yeah.
So
and he's like, oh, I better not. But it only takes a little bit of taunting before he's like, fine, I'll meet you at the abandoned aqueduct for the death race.
The death race?
Yes, the death race. So we get the, what the hell is that word?
Yeah.
All right, senors and señores, I believe. Whichever car makes it through that tunnel first is the winner.
I think they were trying to create a new version of señoritas, but we'll take what they put.
We'll go with it.
So this is actually Snake with his recently acquired girlfriend from a few episodes back. It kind of looks like her.
We get another great line with him, too, because they're lined up for the death race, which it becomes very apparent that the tunnel they're racing through only has enough room for one car to make it. So obviously the winner only. But Snake decides that they're going to start the race when he pulls down his girlfriend's crop top, which he gets offended by. And he's like, what? I was just trying to include you in my life.
And then he just sighs and goes, just go.
This is where we get a nice little action sequence. It's pretty cool in the animation. They're running back and forth. At one point, how do they light? They light the jackets on fire, right? Or they get in the wreck and that causes the jackets to catch on fire.
Well, he's borrowing the car, so it's got the stick with the boot in it that Homer was using to brake from the back seat.
That's right. And he uses a weapon.
It's not Jasper, it's the other guy whose name I forget right now. The Jewish guy, the older guy, where he sticks it out and starts bothering the other car.
I think he hits the brake with it, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it causes them to spin out. They crash. The car catches on fire because that's how all car crashes work on television. All of them, their jackets catch on fire, and they all rip them off before they burn, except for the leader, the one wearing the Planet Hollywood jacket. He says, if the jacket burns, then I burn with it. And we then cut back to...
I would rather die than have people not know what stores I have been to.
Exactly. This is where we see that the car, the Abe's car specifically, or really Homer's car with Abe driving it, makes it through the tunnel, which is a great thing, of course, until they realize that tunnel empties out on the other side.
We're the fattest punks in our age bracket.
Until they go flying off the edge of like a quarry, essentially, or like a ravine of some sort, down a giant hill that in just the most ridiculous of Springfield architecture, like the geography
City
of Springfield.
planning.
Yeah. There's a giant hill that apparently ends directly in the backyard of the Simpsons home. And the reveal we get here is quite good because basically we see the Abe driving the car. They crash into this tree and he's like, oh no, I can't let Homer find out. And we pan out to realize that tree is one of the trees that Homer ties his hammock to. And Homer's literally sleeping right next to it.
And poor Jasper's beard got broken. I broke my beard. And he just split in half, but then he like mashes it back together and it's fine.
And it's all good. He puts a splint on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Homer wakes up and it's basically Abraham Simpson, you are never driving again, ever.
Oh, I can't believe I cracked up my only set of wheels.
And when he gets back to the retirement castle, he tells Zelda he's got a surprise for her. He's booked a room.
Zelda's got a surprise for him.
You're right. Zelda has a surprise for Abe in that she booked them a room for the weekend in Branson, Missouri at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel.
Oh, that's great, but there's a slight hitch. You see, I'm temporarily between cars.
And she immediately, you can tell, loses interest and starts to walk away.
We don't need anything to have fun but ourselves. Give me the old time fun. Give me that old time fun. Give me that old time fun. The kind where we stay home. Zelda, may I offer you a lit? Oh, that's a different line.
Yeah. They break up and Zelda has the like, oh, don't worry, don't feel bad, Abe. I'll always think of you as my friend without a car.
Oh. Don't go, Zelda. I love you, Zelda. I'm going to make you forget about your grandchildren. No, that's the other guy again.
So we cut back to the Simpsons home where Abe is taking matters into his own hands. If he can't get the keys from Homer, he'll just hotwire the car. But he gets caught by Bart, who's just very casually like, oh, stealing mom's car, huh?
Yeah, it's the only way to win back Zelda. And if I go to prison, I'll get better food and more hugs.
And I love these jokes so much in The Simpsons when they just imply that when we're not watching, Bart is always up to even worse shenanigans than we see him on television. Because as Grandpa is struggling to hotwire the car, Bart like looks over and is like, oh, it's actually the blue to yellow wire. And as soon as he touches those, it starts as if he's done this 100,000 times.
It is hot diggity Dodge. Next stop, Branson, Missouri.
Bart's like, can I tag along?
Sure, why not? School ain't helping you.
Born to be wild.
All right. We have come to the moment. Are you okay with this, Miles?
Just them going to Branson?
For love.
Or that I hate this hippie crap.
No, are you okay with them going to Branson for love?
I mean, Branson in general isn't my scene, but if it makes them happy, by all means, go to Branson.
Idea of them going to Branson for love. Because about 2 weeks ago, you didn't like that Bart, a child, was going to Toronto for love.
Yeah, that's a way different situation, bro, because Bart is a 10-year-old boy. Grandpa, this might be his last chance at love. So yeah, those are entirely not the same. My problem that I had a few weeks ago was like the entire family uprooted and went to Canada because a 10-year-old had Branson. Because a 10-year-old had a crush. This is a 100-year-old with a crush. That's way different. I would support.
He said it's going between a toddler and a teenager, but 10 minutes ago.
If my grandpa were still alive today and he's like, son, I need you to take me to Branson so I can score with this old hoochie, I would be like, get in the car, Gramps, let's go. Because that might be his last chance. That's a way different situation. A 10-year-old, though, like, that's childish, literally.
Even if that 10-year-old's in his 13th season?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are like 100% not the same. Though, I will say, honestly, even with all that said, while I think this is a far more acceptable reason to go to Branson.
It's not Canada, it's just Missouri.
Yeah, it's also very drivable, but it's less expensive. So there's a lot going for this. If Bart was like, I want to drive to the town over to see this girl that I have a crush on, I would have been like, okay, I support that. Like if the parents are down, go for it. But Canada, sir, like, no. Even with like the fake world that the Simpsons can live in the house they do and have 2 cars with the one income, that's still out of the question. But in this case, my bigger issue is just, I don't know. And I kind of do have to admit, I kind of lose interest in this episode a little bit after they go to Branson, but it's more so just because I thought that I don't know. I didn't love the fact that it kind of cuts more to like the the fake celebrity jokes and stuff, and less about Grandpa and his girlfriend, which was an interesting story.
Yeah, I got you.
But
so
regardless,
we're born to be wild.
We are born to be wild. And now, warm and safe radio takes you back to the golden age of radio theater.
It's the Itchy and Scratchy Hour, presented by Hansen's Mustache Wax, the mustache wax Hitler doesn't use.
And we get the Itchy and Scratchy theme. So
keep in mind, this is a radio broadcast.
Right,
Itchy and Scratchy. Like, they aren't seeing any of this. It's being spoken.
It's literally the announcer doing it like a prose situation where he's like, as we join tonight's adventure, we find Itchy at the counter of his butcher shop.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. Hiya, Scratchy.
And there's like audience applause. Ah, you're crushing my head.
Abe and Bart share a little moment there. And then
apparently Abe's been watching Itchy and Scratchy all the way since the Roosevelt administration.
During the war, Eleanor Roosevelt was the voice of Scratchy.
That lady knows funny.
So we learned something today.
Yeah. This is where Marge is now as upset with Abe as Homer is, because first he wrecks your car, then he steals mine. Your father's out of control.
Oh, sure. When he does something bad, he's my father.
They basically realize there's a clue left, that they've gone to Branson, Missouri, which is 1,000 miles away. And they've got no car to get there. And just as they make that declaration, a bus comes up that's labeled Branson. And Ned is cheerfully coming out like, oh, come on, boys.
And then Homer says, we'll wait for the next one.
As if there's going to be another Branson bus just coming by that's Flanders free.
Yeah.
We cut back to Branson with Grandpa and Bart, where they come to a screeching halt and see hobo signs, which are designed to tell hobos if the place is friendly or not.
That one means good victuals. Sexy daughter, mass hobo graven cellar. Here we are, Branson, Missouri.
No, Pally, this is Bronson, Missouri.
And there's a bunch of Charles Bronson looking dudes all over the place.
Literally everyone in Bronson, Missouri is a look-alike. Regardless if you're a man, child, boy, girl of any age, you look and sound like Charles Bronson.
And I believe it's actually the Simpsons family that ends up in Bronson, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're correct. Yeah, it's a pit stop on the way to Branson.
Yeah.
They have to get on the number 10 bus now to get to Bronson, or to Branson from Bronson.
Hey, Ma, how about some cookies?
No dice.
Says, no dice. This ain't over.
And then we see the glitziest welcome to sign ever. And it's Branson, the actual Branson, Missouri. And there's upbeat music playing, and Abe is on a focus mission. Whoa, okay, keep your eyes peeled for Zelda. Is that her?
Is that her?
No.
Is that her?
No.
Is that her?
No.
Is that her?
No. Oh, wait. It was the second one.
That delayed reaction coming back again.
Yeah. Abe pulls up in Marge's car, tires screeching. Zelda, baby, it's me. Two senior, and we see that she's walking into the movie theater, I believe, or a show of some sort, and the suave gentleman is like, 2 seniors, please.
Oh no, he's taking her to the hottest matinee in town. Come on, boy, after them.
And we get what the script describes as ominous classical music playing, and then upbeat music playing, and then singing.
Well, it's because the way the scene starts is all these people are out in funeral clothes, and this casket is rising in the background. So it starts ominous, and you think it's going to be something super serious, and then they just all have smiles on their faces, and it just lightens up out of nowhere.
And we get introduced to the stars that you loved yesterday. Where did they go? Did they all pass away? Was it drugs or a car crash or a facelift gone wrong? No! They're right here in Branson and singing this song. And we get Charo, who shakes her maracas. Remember me, fool? I was a bee. No, and then it was my bad. It was Mr. T. I thought Charo just had low self-esteem. She's like, I'm a B at best.
So she just goes, my name is Charo, I shake my maracas. And then it goes to the next one.
Mr. T comes out, remember me, fool? I was B.A. Baracus.
We're the performers you thought were dead, like Bonnie Franklin and Adrian Zamed. Branson's the place we can always be found. They took Nick at night and made it a town.
I like that line a lot. We get another appearance by Ray J.
Or you can call me Jay. Just don't call me washed up. I do 3 shows a day.
This is a person that they really love to talk about or like show in The Simpsons. I think this is literally like the 8th time that they've done a Ray J joke, which
my dad loved it too back in the day.
Yeah, I think it's just if you're of a certain age, it's a thing that really connected with people.
Which my dad was never close to Grandpa's age back in the day when this was airing, but by now he would have been.
We also get Charlie Callis, who doesn't make a sound or doesn't sleep in the ground because he's still alive and making his sounds. Sit back and relax and watch our review. In Soviet Union, review watches you.
And then we go backstage. So Grandpa and Bart are literally backstage, and they run into Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Which Tennessee Ford is a famous playwright. Like, I know for certain he wrote the Delilah boxcar named Delilah. Is that right?
Is that the one that he wrote? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Tennessee Williams, who didn't.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of somebody. I don't know. Now, I went with the fact that I'm like, surely there's not 2 people named Tennessee.
Tennessee Williams wrote like the Glass Menagerie and stuff like that.
Well, take everything you learn here on this podcast with a grain of salt.
So Tennessee Ernie Ford was an American singer.
Tequila. That makes a lot more sense.
It's all good. We're here to educate and give you false, then correct information eventually.
We're here to learn with you is the thing.
Yeah. We don't review or we don't look this stuff up before the show. I think we're that professional. But anyways,
Abe Simpson gets in an argument with Tennessee Ernie Ford, though. He's like, I know you're dead.
No, you just think I'm dead.
No, you're dead. I was your biggest fan. Look, I clipped your obituary.
And then he just evaporates into dust, like he just got snapped.
yeah, like exactly like the Thanos snap. And definitely, it's like he didn't have to leave until he was like told he was dead. I guess is the rules here. I'm not certain.
Maybe.
How does the afterlife work?
Yeah. Simpsons.
When Marge arrives, she was instantly like, "Oh, I wonder if there's gambling here." And we got like a callback to her gambling addiction. And even in the middle of this hunt, at point, she's like, "Let's take a quick gambling break. A little action will really sharpen our senses."
Mom, there's no gambling in Branson. It was designed as a family destination.
Oh no, there's gambling. We'll just have to find it.
Look, Mom, it's your car. Grandpa and Bart must be in that theater.
Bet you they're not. 3-1.
Mom, you're hurting me.
This is Marge trying to find action one way or the other, so she's willing to bet with her child, who she's squeezing her arm, like 3-1. Come on. But we cut over to Captain Bringdown and the Buzz Killers.
That's Bart referencing Homer, Marge, and Lisa because he can see him walking in from backstage. Like Homer, Marge, and Lisa are walking into the main auditorium area, but from backstage, Bart can see them getting into their seats.
Yeah, and he knows that if they catch him, they're going to be his trip with Grandpa is going to be over quick.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells Grandpa, if you're going to make a move, you better do it now.
Okay. Wait, stop the music.
And it does.
Uh-huh. And then Marge goes, "Oh, it's Grandpa."
Munster?
No, Simpson.
And Homer's like disappointed by this.
Well, he starts hitting the ground and the whole ground shaking almost like it's the head of the Munster family.
Like Herman Munster. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, darn. I've driven hundreds of miles to say something very special to someone in this audience tonight.
Aw, huh?
Zelda, will you come up here? And she's
Drive me, Abe. Drive me.
I just want to say we're through. Nobody dumps Abe Simpson. You're nothing but a hoochie. Hoochie. Now, I'd like my son to come up here.
Ooh, yeah.
Son, can you forgive an old fool?
Only in public.
I love that. Homer hugs his father, but is very much like, yeah, publicly, sure. The audience is very pleased by this performance. We cut back to the Russian guy who's like, in Russia, stage is for performers only. And we get a song to the Ballad of Jed Clampett, which is the Beverly Hillbillies theme, essentially. This is an awkward ending, sorry.
Yeah, very awkward ending.
That's basically they all like. So this is our Simpsons reset, and they basically all decide to go home, but they're in Branson, so they do like a quick little like country music like medley type of thing, where they kind of like almost like a short little dance thing, and they pose in the doorway, all wearing like Southern clothing. They even do Lisa at the end is like, "Hey, this has been a Gracie Films presentation."
Yep.
And that brings us to the end of our third act and to the end of the episode, The Old Man and the Key. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to say before we get out of here?
I honestly did not remember how this one was going to end until the ending was happening. Like, I was sitting here going, man, I don't remember this last scene with them being in Branson and everything. And I was like, I know they have to reset, but like he's doing the whole proclamation of love thing and she's falling for it. She's going up on stage. So then when he straight up like said no to her, I was like, yeah, buddy. I was glad that Abe had the smart enough sense to realize what was going on. Even though, people were literally telling him throughout the entire episode. Even Jasper was like tramp earlier on.
Hoochie.
So I'm glad that Abe did the right thing at the end and publicly humiliated in Branson.
Is that the right thing? Yeah, I think you might be right. That sounds correct to me. Yeah, you kind of referenced at the beginning. This episode had its moments. There's a lot of stuff I really liked. I mean, again, it's got that prolific old man yells at clouds joke is enough to, I think, hold it in high regards to some extent. This one does kind of lose me a little bit when they go to Branson, just briefly. There's still fun moments throughout it, but ultimately, I think this one is actually pretty accurately represented at a 6.5 out of 10, which is the same rating that The Lastest Gun in the West had last week. And I do think this one was a slight step down, personally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so in either way, still, I think season 13 has been going pretty strong, ultimately. I'm still very much enjoying the show, which is nice. Definitely collectively a step up from season 12. I think we both agree with that.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with this season, except for that one episode from a few weeks ago. But besides that, it's been great.
Which one was that one?
The one that everybody loved.
Yeah, I don't remember. I am honestly blanking on which one that was, frankly. But it doesn't. We talked about it already.
Half decent proposal, maybe.
That one was. There's a couple of them this season that are still feeling a little bit off. But I think it's just because they have to take some swings in places that they haven't explored yet. And that kind of makes sense after a time.
Like in Branson.
I did forget to mention at the very top that The Old Man and the Key is a reference to the Ernest Hemingway poem, The Old Man and the Sea. That's pretty obvious, but, just in case, so we should mention it. Other than that, man, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of Best Darn Diddly. And as always, we really appreciate you tuning in and checking out the show. Before I forget, while it's on the top of my mind, vote for me in the Faces of Horror competition. If you're listening to this, that would really help me a lot. And follow me on Twitch before we get into our other plugs, because we're trying to move over and get that going, and that would help us out a lot as well. But we very much appreciate all of you that watch the show, listen to the show, and will continue to go with us as we move on to a different network and continue to produce this show.
And if you have trouble following us just based off the words Miles said, then make sure you follow him on Twitter at Mr. Most Days Off. That's also where you can subscribe to him and follow him on all his other stuff, including Twitch at Mr. Most Days Off. So that's a good way to hear where the show's coming and when it's happening. You can follow myself at TheWiz_Kid23, and you can follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That is DIDDLY.
Make sure you come back again next week, because we're going to be doing another one of those classic 3-part splits that they've started doing in the last few episodes. Apu. We're going come back and join us for Tales from the Public Domain.
Hey, and if you're looking for something with a big back seat and a lot of gas, we're your guys.
Until next time, be cromulent to each other.